Paul Owen is probably one of the more considered architects when it comes to general arrangements of a floor plan. The front of the house is an original old grand Queenslander, and what Paul does really well is they leave these really subtle cues that something actually is different.
Kind of two buildings. There's the traditional Queenslander and then a modernist pavilion slash tower at the rear. There's sufficient sort of separation but also connection, and it's this particular courtyard's giving space and views to the new work but also to the old Queenslander, which looks straight into that void.
You get to the front gate and you'll notice that there's the tiling and the wrought iron of the actual gatehouse. Pretty much the rest of the house looks like a grand Queenslander, and then you sort of open up and it starts unfolding.
So one of the great things about traditional buildings is things like an actual dining room where you can be dining in a room without the noise of other rooms, the visual noise and also the acoustic noise. So you can still create that in a modernist building. And that's what we've tried to do here, to create rooms that work with each other and connect with each other, but sort of have their own moment to themselves.
There's so much to enjoy in this house, and there's so many different sort of apertures that you are drawn to look at and to see through. There's a level of transparency with the design. You can look through one window, through another, and then see another room. And all at the same time, the hero is this incredibly large garden with tennis court, pool, pontoon. It's one of these houses that unfolds, and it's a generational house. So you've got your original house, and then you've got the secondary building, which is detached from the original house in both style and in nature. And it serves as a functionality between putting what was particularly a smaller footprint of a house into one space, like with your sleeping and your private spaces, and then changing the master planning of the extension of the property into something that was probably a lot more family friendly and has all the functionalities that we look for in a modern age. You've got the open plan kitchen, dining, you sit down into the sunken lounge, and that then sort of connects through onto the outdoor space, which then connects back around to the lounge room.
It's essentially an outdoor space, but you can use it in all kinds of weather. And you can also give it its own sort of condition as well. So you could make it feel cozy and private, but also open, depending on if it's a nice day or if it's evening. And it's this particular courtyard's giving space and views to the new work, but also to the old Queenslander, which looks straight into that void. When you make a courtyard, the really great thing is that you get to see your own house from another part of the house. A big part of the design was us trying to generate different spatial feelings and different views.
A classical understated elegance with a thought out conceptual floor plan. I mean, his foresight into the way that the light works and the capturing of light through skylights and cutouts is pretty incredible. Like all of these houses, there's so much detail in it, and you're going to find different things at different times of the day. You're going to find that light plays on things differently, and it just depends on how you view it and what you see.
A grand Queenslander like this is something really to be valued. Easy to preserve it and to have it, keep it as it is, sort of using the same material palette but in a completely different type of architecture.
It does feel different, and that is deliberate. The sense of leaving the Queenslander in very much a lot of its original form with the picture rails and the single skinned walls, it still gives you that nostalgia of what they were without trying to pretend that it's something that it's not. And he's still being clever. I mean, this is referenced with weatherboards on the exterior, there's timber usages, like the design language does continue through, but it's like the old and the new, but then the amalgamation of the materiality brings it all together so it doesn't feel awkward. Like sometimes when you see these houses with extensions, the juxtaposition can be great, but sometimes it can just be too much. But I think this hits the right notes. And what I think a lot of great architects and designers do is that they don't tend to overcomplicate it and use heaps and heaps and heaps of different materials and textures and tiles and fittings and fixtures. There is a pared back vision with this sort of style of home, and I think that really lends to the longevity of the design. I think anyone who is designing now and using those fads and picking 17 different tiles for their house, they're going to find in a very short time that house is going to be outdated.
On almost every project, one of the big aims is to have material restraint. So instead of adding materials, we're trying to take them away. It allows the spaces and the volumes and the legibility of the house to come through a project to feel like it should be there and that it's timeless.
These houses can be a work of art. They don't have to be strictly functional. Not everything in here is strictly functional, but that's what makes them enjoyable. Paul's got 5 children, so he understands what a family home is. And I think that really shows. And I feel like this could be a really great house for a growing family, intergenerational family, or people who just really appreciate having a lot of thoughtfully executed spaces.